Let's start the year off right by talking about cream. Years ago, I did a whole video about the history of cream, which has since been removed because YouTube is such an open forum for educational content. Cream is quite simply one of the greatest bands of all time. Nowadays, they're mostly associated with Eric Clapton's iconic guitar solos. But Ginger Baker's jazz-flavored drumming and Jack Bruce's heavy bass and lead vocals cannot be underestimated. One of the first songs I learned on guitar was Sunshine of Your Love. And about a decade later, I was performing their material in a Cream tribute band, posting videos of us at the dawn of YouTube. And recently, I had the unbelievable pleasure to share the stage with Kofi Baker, the son of Ginger Baker and an amazing instrumentalist in his own right. So I figured, who better to help me pick out Cream's best material than Kofi himself? Thanks for joining me, Kofi.
Hello, I'm Kofi Baker. Cream was the first supergroup where everybody was known from other bands and put together. And the music is definitely timeless. So stop listening to your music that's all computerized and listen to some real musicians play. And Cream was the best musicians of the time. It's a definite should be in your playlist, for sure.
Well, let's get into it. As always, we're formatting this like a vinyl record, no longer than 26 minutes a side. But since Cream is so well known for their extended live jams, we're going to take a page from the Hendrix playlist and include a live disc. I've been waiting so long for this Cream playlist. Let's start with the first track off of Fresh Cream, I Feel Free. Their first big hit after a somewhat shaky start with their first single, Wrapping Paper. And I know Ginger Baker was not a fan of that one.
Wrapping paper's the most appalling piece of shit I've ever heard in my life.
It kicks off with a vocal round from all three members.
Yeah, I think my dad's doing one of the bum 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 parts.
Jack Bruce teasing the melody before Ginger's toms set the groove. Jack and Eric sing Pete Brown's lyrics in harmony. It's just such an open, upbeat song, much in line with the free-spirited movement of the time. Jack's vocal on the breakdown just grows in intensity, showing off his operatic vocal chops. Eric uses his woman tone for the solo, rolling off some tone on his guitar to give it that more hollow sound.
They never did I Feel Free live, though, which is weird. I suppose it's because it's got so many vocal parts and everything. It's kind of a hard one for a three-piece to do live. I've done it live. But, we had a bigger band when I did it. So, because there's a lot of vocal parts and you need the keyboards in it as well.
Right. Another standout from Fresh Cream is Sweet Wine, Ginger's composition.
And that one was written with Jack Bruce's wife, Janet. I mean, I've done that one when I'm touring too. And it's a good tune to jam on, actually. You can really open it out. So a lot of the stuff my dad wrote, I thought was really good. The problem with Cream was the fact that Jack wrote 600 tunes in one day. And Eric and my dad were a little bit slower. So when they came to the recording studio, Jack showed up with like 1 billion tunes and my dad and Eric showed up with a couple each. So that's why most of them ended up being Jack's songs.
Did he write on piano or guitar, or how do you usually write?
Yeah, I think he wrote on piano a lot because I have his keyboard when he was writing all the Horses and Trees and all those later albums. And I ended up with it when he moved to Africa. I ended up grabbing the keyboard. And that's what I write on, so it's the same keyboard.
We're going to get into more songs off of Fresh Cream on the live disc. For now, let's dive into Disraeli gears. Let's look at the first number, Strange Brew. This was originally Eric Clapton's arrangement of Junior Wells' Hey Lawdy Mama, recorded here in straight time. It was producer Felix Popularity who got the idea to rework the arrangement into an original tune, with some help from his wife, Gail Collins. The result was the more trippy Strange Brew, with the lyrics giving off this evil, witchy kind of vibe. Or it could easily be a drug reference. Eric's falsetto vocal is much poppier, but the Albert King-style guitar playing is a nice contrast.
My dad's drumming to that, gives it a really nice, funky groove, I think. My dad was very good with that boogaloo beat. It was really kind of not really known until my dad kind of did it. And that's a good example of that kind of boogaloo beat with those boogaloo fills. So da-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
When I was doing a Cream tribute back in LA, Adam Curry, who's now playing with Candlebox, we were talking about those fills, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, because Ginger had admitted
They've got these quadruple stacks behind them. I was having to hit the drums that hard to try and hear what I was playing.
And Adam said, well, that might explain why instead of him doing like a brum, brum, he'd go dugga-dun, dugga-dun.
Exactly.
just be heard a little more.
Well, that's what you have to understand. The bigger the show you play as a drummer, the less you can play. When you're playing a small jazz club, you can play all your roughs and all your little fills and 30-second notes and everything, and it's great. But when you start getting on big stages, that stuff gets lost real quick.
We had to play loud in order to get across, because there was no real PAs in those days.
I grew up playing jazz and fusion more than my dad.
Kofi back to please.
My dad started playing Cream in his 20s. I'd been playing jazz and fusion till I was probably 40. So I still find it hard when I'm playing a big show to simplify, but you have to, as a drummer, you have to simplify, because otherwise it doesn't have the impact.
And Strange Brew is followed by probably Cream's best known song and a staple of 60s rock, Sunshine of Your Love.
In the sunshine of your love.
The story goes that Jack and Pete had a long songwriting session, and just as Jack started playing the famous riff to Sunshine of Your Love, Pete Brown looked out his window and wrote, "It's getting near dawn."
Eric wrote the chorus part, and my dad, put the beat to it.
Why don't we slow it down and go ba ba da da ba 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 da.
So it really wasn't a Jack tune. That was really all three of them writing that song.
I love the way Jack and Eric split up the vocals, and on Eric's guitar solo, he quotes Frank Sinatra's Blue Moon.
Take that drum part away and put a normal 4/4 beat to it, and it loses a lot. I actually put out a CD many years ago with Sunshine of Your Love on it, and I slowed it right down, really slow, and it sounds really good. It's the grooviest version of it, and it's on a CD I call Kofi Baker's Cream Experience, which you can get from my website. My dad was always about, play it slow, so I slowed it right down to see how it sounded. I think it sounds great.
A lesser-known gem from this album is Dance the Night Away, another Bruce Brown composition. This one really leans into those trippy arrangements, Eric and Jack singing harmony again, and one of the few times Eric plays a 12-string. Pete Brown's beat poetry is nicely showcased here, as is another track off of side 2, SWLABR. Okay, the song actually stands for She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow. It's a somewhat abnormal tune for Cream. I mean, for one thing, it has a bridge. There aren't many Cream tunes that have this kind of 2-minute 30 pop song makeup, but all the signature Cream ingredients are still here. A spirited vocal from Jack, some neat guitar riffs from Eric, and Ginger driving it all home.
When I play, I always have a 5-beat break in it, because it's all in 4, but the vocals, the snare drum gets in the way of the vocals. And I think the reason, from what I understand, is when they did it in the studio, they put the vocals on afterwards, and so they kept it in 4 in the studio, and then, that was it. And so they just kept it that way.
We'll finish off side 1 of this playlist with We're Going Wrong, one of Jack's most emotional vocals.
Yeah, that's a really good tune too. My dad used a lot of tom-toms in that one, so it's good to hear that. The drums are a very intricate part of that song.
So that's side 1, and for side 2, I hope you like Wheels of Fire, because we're going to be including a lot of material from this record. I do feel Wheels of Fire is their towering achievement. Even the filler songs are so quirky and experimental. And really, can you think of a better opener than White Room?
In a white room.
Man, this song is one of my all-time favorites. Right from the first chord, you know you're in for something different, with Ginger providing a 5/4 bolero beat and layers of overdubbed guitars sounding like a choir.
I mean, who else would put a 5/4 bolero in it but my dad? It's like, do what you like. That's my dad again.
The lyrics come from a poem Pete had written based on an actual White Room he lived in, where he was going through kind of a watershed period with his relationship and reevaluating his life. The way Jack sings the song evokes feelings of longing and solitude. But the upbeat groove really harkens back to the blues, the music itself acting as a channel for all these negative emotions. The guitar riff is very similar to Tales of Brave Ulysses, which we'll get to on the live disc. And let's face it, Eric Clapton's wah solo and the lead up to it is one of the finest moments in rock history. Moving on to one of Ginger's most loved compositions, Pressed Rat and Warthog.
Pressed Rat and Warthog closed down their shop.
It's a great song to do live. It's fun. It's a fun song. And as a kid, I always used to talk about, Bad Cat's in, Mad Men with his, wooden leg and shit. It was always cool as a kid to talk about, I like that one now more than ever because I get to play it and it's got memories of it as a kid, singing it as a kid. Because I asked him, I said, Dad, this song seems really deep. What does it really mean? He goes, imagination, son. I just made it up.
I've always been curious on particularly Pressed Rat and Warthog and Those Were the Days if Ginger would come in having written out all the instrumental parts, like, oh, this is what the trumpet's going to play, this is what the piccolo's going to play.
Yeah, because he would write out, when I grew up with him, he was writing out, treble clef and bass clef for all the trumpets and all the parts. Back in those days, musicians were musicians, no matter whether they played drums, bass, guitar, or oboe. They had to be able to write out, music for if they wanted to play. So Phil Seaman taught him how to read music, and then the rest he just picked up from working in the jazz circuit.
The bad Captain Madman had ordered their fight.
He did that for the reunion show, and he looked like he was having a really, really good time with that one.
Yeah, he played it very differently. He played it more of a jazz, kind of a jazz way. I kind of do it more like the original way, where it's a bit harder.
Politician, boy, if this one isn't still relevant.
Politician, a great groove, another, really good groovy tune. And my dad played that double bass drum.
It's a simple idea of a political figure trying to woo a girl with his political leanings. Sexy? I love Eric's layered guitar solos, wavering between major and minor. Also, Jack's bass runs are a true standout here. I debated including the live version, but the studio gem really takes advantage of sounds and layering tracks. From there, we go to Those Were the Days, written by Ginger with pianist Mike Taylor. This is a really progressive piece, with Ginger playing a lot of those orchestral parts himself.
Probably acid for that tune, I would say, maybe. Maybe the acid, they were more on the acid when they got that one together.
Next, we got their cover of Born Under a Bad Sign. Yeah, we're pretty much including the entire B-side of Wheels of Fire. I'm not going to act like it's better than Albert King's original, but it's still a solid cover.
It's pretty much the same tune, bass and guitar, but the drums are different, and that's what I'm saying. My dad made it a Cream song. Back then, you could be more inventive. Nowadays, you do that, and they're like, what are you doing? Fall on the floor, please.
Not much else to say, so let's discuss Deserted Cities of the Heart. This has always been one of my favorite Cream songs. It sounds like it belongs in a Western or something like that.
Yeah, Deserted City's another really good one. It's got, extra beats in it and stuff like that.
There's that 6/8 break during the bridge that
which was definitely my dad, for sure, Just the way my dad came up with stuff, I'm sure that was pretty much him.
Let's finish this main playlist with the standout from their Goodbye album, Badge, co-written by George Harrison.
There is a story about that, wasn't it? Meant to be Bridge? Ringo read it as Bridge or something?
Yeah. They were writing the song and they wrote Bridge really crazy, and somebody read it upside down. It's like, oh, the song's name is Badge? Like, no, that's the Badge.
Yeah, apparently it was Ringo. Apparently.
Also, Ringo apparently chimed in with that line about the swans living in the park. The lyrics themselves feel very stream of conscious-like, very conversational. That's George playing the Bridges guitar riff through a Leslie, and it's just for lack of a better term, a magic moment. It's like this dark, dreary tune crashing into this long stretch of silence suddenly opens up. Eric's voice becomes more spirited, and he plays a wonderful guitar solo. The song returns to the main form, but the energy of the bridge continues. In under 3 minutes, Badge points us towards Eric Clapton's future and gives Cream one hell of a single to go out on. So that's the studio playlist. Now let's get into the live disc, and this is really where Cream shows why they were 3 of the best musicians of their time.
The stuff was so different live than in the studio. They were good improv musicians.
Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Yeah, as great as the studio version is, This live version from Winterland 1968, which was first heard off of Live Cream Volume 2, for me at least is the definitive version. The slower tempo makes it a bit swampier, and the power of Jack and Eric's amps and Ginger's toms have often been referred to as a prototype for heavy metal.
The birth of heavy metal should have been aborted.
As I mentioned, the guitar line sounds very similar to White Room. Ulysses was obviously recorded first, and this was actually the first time Eric was recorded using a wah pedal, just beating out Jimi Hendrix before he used it on Up From the Skies, though Frank Zappa used it before either of them.
As I rock the pedal, it takes bass off and puts treble on, you see, like that. Your volume isn't going down very much, but the tone is going wah wah like that.
On this version, Eric's perfected his technique, with Jack and Ginger improvising along with him. Some of Jack's licks are so out there, it's like a distorted guitar in and of itself. This performance is a trip to say the least. Here's another cut from Fresh Cream, N.S.U. This particular version is from Live Cream Volume 1 from the same Winterland concert. This one's got another memorable melody by Jack with some standout harmonies, but it's that 10-minute jam that really takes us on a wild ride. Crossroads, the Robert Johnson cover from Wheels of Fire with Eric singing.
Down to the crossroads.
I mean, what can I say about this song that hasn't already been said? It's frequently been cited as one of the greatest guitar solos in rock history, though Eric himself says he's not a fan of this version. Apparently he had a hard time hearing Ginger's drums because his amp was so loud. If you listen closely during the second solo, you can hear where the disorientation comes in. But in a way, it almost makes it more innovative, like a happy accident. And Eric's playing is on fire with a rhythm section that's practically soloing with him.
I think Eric's playing was the best in Cream, to be honest with you. I mean, I like a lot of the stuff he did later, but I thought he was the most fluid in Cream. He was just being himself. I think later on, it was a bit more contrived.
Crossroads is followed by Spoonful. This is the track that opened my ears to a lot of different things. Again, this Howlin' Wolf cover was originally included on Fresh Cream, but the Winterland version from Wheels of Fire gives off that same heavy sound. Jack's singing is certainly not the same as Howlin' Wolf's smoky melody, but his vocal is totally unique. And then that jam starts, and man, do they take us on a wild ride.
Spoonful, that's like, live version, it's the best thing. I mean, I did it with the music of Cream. We went on for ages on that one.
Yeah, even we went on a nice, good long while with it.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
Well, here's one I'm sure you can spend a lot of time talking about, which is Toad, the live version from Wheels of Fire. I'm just going to let you say what you got to say.
Well, I mean, that's just all my dad, isn't it? The riff is pretty simple. And it's pretty much just to bookend a drum solo, really. Robert Stigwood, but he looked like a toad, apparently, so that's where Toad comes from. But there's versions of that song on the Ginger Baker's Air Force where he put a lot more in there, because he had a bigger band with Air Force. He had all the trumpets and all that kind of stuff. With Cream, they just did Toad, just did basically the head, and into a bit of a jam, then off to the drum solo.
You were to explain to somebody who doesn't know as much about drums, like why it's one of the great drum solos of all time, like what would you say?
Well, I mean, because it was one of the first rock drum solos with two kick drums. My dad was, like I said, he was off the wall in that stuff. He was in his peak. All of the great drummers, Alex Van Halen's and Neil Peart's and all those people, that's what got them into drumming. If you're a drummer, you've got to check it out. And if you're not a drummer, just check it out anyway. It's cool.
So we have one slot left. How about one from their farewell concert from the Royal Albert Hall, their cover of Skip James' I'm So Glad.
I'm so glad.
I know this concert isn't well loved among fans, mostly because of the terrible camera work and the fact that Cream kind of just wanted to get it over with and break up, but this version of I'm So Glad is definitely a highlight.
And it's a great one to jam. It's basically another jam song, Get into the middle section, off you go.
Well, that's our playlist. Be sure to check out the Spotify link in the description below. And as always, what are your favorite Cream songs? Kofi, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this. Where can we find out what you're up to?
If you want to check out kofibaker.com, I'm keeping my dad's legend going. I'm doing it for the three of them. I told Eric that, and I told my dad that before he died, and he was up for it, and Eric's supporting us. So we're going to be out on the road in the spring, hopefully, if this pandemic doesn't come back. And yeah, check out my website. I've got a book, Forgotten Foot, for all you drummers. Got a CD on there that you can buy with the slowed down version of Sunshine of Your Love.
Well, I hope we get to perform together again soon.
And the last thing I should say for this interview is, fuck off.
I'm keeping that in, by the way.